Hi, and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're talking with Ryan from SqueezeJuiceMarketing.com. How you doing, Ryan?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. To get started, I want to ask, what is the best way to optimize your site using Google Analytics?
Yeah. So Google Analytics is a tricky business in the sense that there's so many numbers in there, right? It's like, where do I start? What's important? What matters? And how do I? And more importantly, how do I grow my business or improve my website with it? And so the best way is actually we start outside of analytics, which is just you have the goals of what are you trying to accomplish with your website, and you know that up front, and then basically we take those and then input them inside of Google Analytics. So if it's an e-commerce site, the goal is obviously to get somebody to purchase something. If it is a WordPress blog and you want people to opt in, i.e. get their email address, well then that would be the goal, or purchase your info product. So we kind of start with the goals, or like Stephen Covey says, you begin with the end in mind, and so we start there and go backwards.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a good point, because you have to really define what those goals in order to figure out what to get the most out of it. And I think it's a pretty common problem that, I see it, I'm sure that you will agree, is that people will just paste the code on their site or implement it into their WordPress site or their e-commerce site. And they expect, that's just basically as far as they get. So what would you say to, the e-commerce owner or the WordPress owner? What would be some of those most actionable reports or steps after you've implemented the code?
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. I do a lot of analytics audits, and the first thing when I talk to people is like, oh, I got the code in there, I got analytics set up. And it's like, Google wants you to think that's all it takes, right? Just paste this code here and you're good to go. And all the code does is it starts collecting the data. But there's the back end of analytics that you have to set up in order for you to extract. What's important to me and everyone here is we're entrepreneurs and we move and make fast decisions, and we want them to be correct. So we want to extract actionable data that we can then go forward and use with confidence to improve our marketing or optimize our website. And so the first thing is, so after the code is installed and you know your goals, well then you need to go to the back end or log into analytics and tell analytics, okay, these are the goals that I'm trying to accomplish on my website. And we don't have to get into the actual mechanics of doing it, but because there's tons of videos and help files on it, but you want to set up, there's a place inside analytics where you set up a goal and say, okay, when someone visits this particular thank you page, the goal has been triggered and now it'll show up in my report. Or you install e-commerce tracking code on the thank you page of your BigCommerce site or Shopify site, and analytics then records the purchase, it puts the revenue amount in there, and all that kind of fancy stuff.
Yeah, well, I use Google Analytics all the time, but I am certainly not an expert, and it changes way too much for me. So now I hire an analyst, and he comes in and he compliments me as I do some of the web design and A/B testing. We hire someone like you, an analyst, who comes in and helps us really figure out to make sure that everything's kind of set up properly.
Right.
Now, as Google Analytics has just been updated, really in the last couple of months. If you haven't changed your code in general, you still might be on the old version. So now there's a new version of universal analytics code. Is that correct?
Yeah. They keep changing. Like they change the code fairly often, but they're pretty, to their credit, they're pretty understanding that they know when they put out the new code, people aren't going to run and jump and go switch it. And so it's not like if you have an older code, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I lose all this intel, You kind of backing up a bit. When I'm consulting with guys and talking with people on analytics, I like to look at, or just talking to people in general, there's kind of three big mistakes that I made when I first started. And I don't know if it mattered, but just when I started in analytics, so the reason I started is because I had an e-commerce site. It was a furniture business, and I was doing tons of AdWords, and I needed to know, I didn't have a lot of money, and I was like, I need to know what's working, what's not working. And AdWords provides you some insight, but not nearly enough that you need as an e-commerce owner to make good, smart marketing decisions. So once I went through that and sold that business, then I started helping other e-commerce owners and other website owners leverage analytics to do it. So just so people know, as a history nerd and history major, it's important when I'm looking at it, when I'm getting information from people, I'm like, all right, well, where did this guy come from? What did he do, et cetera, and so forth. And also, as an aside, I'm in Denver right now, and it's very cold, and I don't have the heater on, so that's why I look like a scrub. But anyway, so the top three mistakes, right, with analytics are, first is what we've kind of already touched on indirectly, is wandering aimlessly in the forest. It's like, I'm just going to take a stroll and walk through the forest vis-a-vis all these numbers and just look at everything and look at the flowers and look at the trees. And after a while, and then you walk out and nothing happened. Because you didn't walk in saying, okay, I'm looking for this particular flower, I'm looking for this particular tree bark, and I'm going to go in and find it. And that's what you do when you have a goal. You're saying, okay, I'm going into analytics to extract information on this particular goal. So you never want to just log in analytics just to browse or just to peruse, because it can be a time suck. So this, then kind of building on that is analysis paralysis. So many numbers. If you don't know what you're looking for, you can just kind of get eyes glazed over and missed out. And maybe later we could talk about what, in my opinion, some of the best reports are to use to get that out. And then the third one is, which kills a lot of people, is worrying about the fancy or the shiny stuff when it really doesn't matter. Google likes to make, like stuff like, like real-time reporting and just all these little things. Like, it's, in some instances, yes, they're helpful, but until you have the basics down, like until you have the goals down, and until you have these 6 key reports down, and you're using them all the time, like all the other stuff doesn't matter. And it's just another way to get distracted. But in the blog ecosphere, everyone wants to talk about the new features, and then you're like, oh gosh, I gotta like keep up and catch. So those would be kind of just my warnings as we go in, just like 3 mistakes to try and just keep in the back of their mind.
Yeah, well, it's definitely that mindset you have to keep, that you have to go into it with. And I would definitely want to touch on what you talked about, is those real top ports to get some actionable and practical advice, right? Because that's the focus of my show, really, is to maximize your return on whether it's time or money. So really getting the most out of everything that you're doing. What would be some of those top reports that I would be looking at?
Yeah, so when we look at the top reports, we kind of come at it with the strategy of my philosophy and mindset of Google Analytics is I'm trying to cut and paste success. So you find what's working, you scale that baby up, you find what's not working, and you either come to somebody like you and get it optimized, or you turn it off. Yep. Stop the bleeding. And so with that kind of mindset in place, the good report to start with is, and these locations change all the time, but it's acquisition and all traffic. And what that is showing you is a bird's eye view, and this is assuming that you've got the goal set up, but it's showing you a bird's eye view of all the incoming traffic to your site and how it performed on your site. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at the different channels, referral, organic, paid, particular websites, and seeing, how are they interacting on the site. And if one is, what we're looking for is just big deviations or variations. So if like Google AdWords is killing it, well, we want to see what's working in there and how do I scale or replicate that success. It is tricky. We talked about a little bit off camera, good old Google, like encrypting those searches now for organic, so you can't even see the keywords. Yeah. So that's a pain in the butt, and it makes it a little bit trickier. But there's still ways around it in terms of you can look at the landing page, what landing pages are getting the most traffic. But to stay on point with this report is it just gives you a bird's eye view of where's my traffic coming from, what is the traffic doing at a top level on my site, and which traffic is interacting most favorably towards the goal that I want them to do. And when I see that, it's like, how do I expand that or replicate that success to another channel? So, for example, if you see that you have a referral site that's killing it with your goals, like it's brought a lot of sales in or signups, well, you want to reach out to that site or look at the site and see what is this blog or what is this site? Okay, how do I go find 5 more of these? Or can I reach out to the owner of the site and say thank you or deepen the relationship? That's one instance. If it's pay-per-click that's killing it, well, you look at the keywords that are doing well and say, okay, let me start optimizing or hand these off to my SEO guy and get him to start optimizing the my landing pages to get ranked for these because I know they're proven keywords to convert.
Yep. Yeah, and in particular in acquisition, when you're setting up those goals, you can tie the individual goal back to revenue. In the case of e-commerce, coming over, you can tie if they bought a $25 product, you can actually get and organize it by revenue,
Right.
and then even drill down to bounce rate, the time on the page. There's definitely some great reports in the acquisition area. Now, would you set up goals a lot differently? I do see a lot of new stuff related to like social tracking or just lead generation tracking goals in general. Do those essentially set up the same way? And then how do you get the best, kind of data analysis from either social tracking or lead generation tracking?
Yeah, so lead generation tracking, I mean, Google does have some, they're always pushing their properties. So they've got like social stuff and they're trying to, get Google Plus going forward. But at the end of the day, it comes back, you don't have to get involved. You don't have to go down that rabbit hole per se. Like you still set up the goal. So for lead gen, the goal is, capturing the email. And so we look at, okay, well, what is the thank you page you're taking to after you fill in that email form? That becomes the goal page. And the social, now that goal's set up, you can go back and look, okay, what social interactions did I have, that led to completion of that goal. So I view social as just another traffic source that is completing the goal. And I don't get too involved in setting up special social goals. With Facebook, for example, this gets outside of analytics, but you can set up conversion tracking that's on the Facebook property, just like you can with AdWords. And that's always good so that you have different dimensions or angles from the data.
Yeah, because I was playing around with it the other day, and I was like, they added so much stuff to when you click on social tracking. There's like, add to favorites, media play, share, social connect, sign up, and I'm like, I just wanted to figure out if someone converted. I was, unsure.
Exactly. They're like, number of times that they click like or whatever, and it's just. And this is where, everyone has different philosophies and approaches. But for me, I'm just like, it's just like, I don't care. Like, you're just getting way too much information. Yeah. Now, for a big corporation, when they got 50 million elves running around, they can like check all that stuff. Hey, more power to them. But for busy entrepreneurs, like we want the 80-20. We want the stuff, like you said, like I want to know, did somebody from Facebook or my Facebook post sign up for this opt-in, or did they purchase from it? And that comes back to, we set up the goal, and then we use the all traffic report as a starter to see which of those channels that's sending me traffic is converting in the manner that I want them to.
Now, what about essentially mapping out the conversion funnel, like in lead gen? Is there anything new that we should look at as far as define? Do you go through the same process of just essentially defining each page that they land on? Is that how the conversion tracking goal, conversion path and goals works?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. We'll look at it either one. So with e-commerce, it's a little more structured because what do they have to do? They got to get to the cart page and then to the checkout page and then to the thank you page. Okay. So that funnel, once you get them to the cart, the funnel is pretty linear. But before then, people think, oh, okay, someone comes to the homepage. And this as a conversion guy. They're like, okay, someone comes to the homepage and they go to the category page and they go to the product page and then they go to the cart page. It's like that never happens. It's like, category product, and then they get to the cart and then you kind of have that structure. And sometimes they still go back. So, but yeah, with the goal, you can, when you're setting up the goals, and again, this is something you can, take some time, but just look at the help files or whatever. They have steps to complete the goal. So it's like, yes, to you first, like for e-commerce sites, I usually will start them on the cart page for the checkout. So they have to go to the cart page, then they go to the order form page, then they go to the thank you page. And that does give you, that goal is set up is under conversions, you go goals and funnel visualization, and you can see the drop off at each stage. And that's where people can see, oh, wow, we got a lot of people adding to the cart, but they are just going MIA on the checkout page. So now this doesn't tell you the answer as far as what's wrong, but it tells you where to look. It tells you where to focus your attention. It says, okay, there is a problem or opportunity for improvement on the checkout page. Let's go get some help here. Let's look at it and just see why might people be dropping off. And you can do the same thing for lead gen. It's just, they start on the opt-in page, and maybe they start on opt-in page 1, they go to 2. I mean, it's the same funnel visualization you can use on both of those.
Yeah, I'll tell you a couple of ways that I have used analytics in the last couple of months, especially with the holidays passing. And you can tell me if you have anything to add or just your opinion on it in general. I do use real time tracking when I do a newsletter drop in e-commerce. If it's a certain type of sale, when the email is delivered to like a deals page, eventually some of those deals would actually go out of stock. So we can actually look in real time to see how many are actually getting bought. And if we anticipate that they're actually going to go out of stock, we'll actually replace those in real time. That inventory with a different product. Have you seen any other type of e-commerce using real time tracking?
No, I mean, but that's a perfect application for that right there. I mean, that's a very smart way to use it. But that in real time, I have not. No, but those types of examples are perfect. And again, that starts with you have kind of a goal. This is a mini goal, but you have a goal in mind, which is don't be promoting a deal that's not in stock. And so you start with that, and then you make analytics bend and work to support that, instead of saying, let me just log in and look at real time and see what's going on my site.
Have you experimented with the new behavior flows and these different event triggers? That's kind of like the new stuff in Google Analytics.
A little bit, especially like I do a lot of AdWords for my for clients, and so we'll look at purchase paths and things. What are they doing when they're coming, especially for like campaigns that are higher up in the awareness funnel. Short, like 2 keyword campaigns, to see kind of what are they doing as far as their behavior flow. And it is very nice because you can isolate, instead of all of AdWords traffic, you can isolate a particular campaign or particular ad group and see where they're going throughout the site, and kind of just walk through what they're walking through and see what they're seeing, and view their experience, view the experience of the website through their eyes instead of our own, inside the bottle type of thing.
So you don't have to make any assumptions about what the customer is doing, and you can really see what the real analytics tell you. Now, what about like segmentation or trying to figure out what type of customers are visiting your site? Can you tell that from the pay-per-click traffic that's coming over?
Yes, segmentation is actually an awesome feature, and that gets real deep. It allows you to, you can go, you can say, again, we start with a question, like we don't just wander aimlessly through the forest. Like that's the most important thing. I want people watching this is like we're going to talk about different features and tactics, but if you've got the wrong strategy or mindset in the beginning, you just waste time. So with AdWords, a lot of times what I'll look at is like, okay, show me a segment of everyone who purchased this particular product, and you kind of reverse engineer like what keywords are they using, what pages did they visit, and you just look at those puzzle pieces and see if you can't come up with either a better message that you either put in the ad copy or in the web page copy to speak to them. You can also look at people who visited like 20 pages, and it's like, were they lost? That there's something wrong on the website that they couldn't find what they're looking for. There's so many examples, and really the cool thing is like with segments, you can just Google templates and stuff, because there's so many online. You don't have to like sit down and create your own. You can just go, especially as an e-commerce owner or a lead gen owner, you can go online and grab those and custom reports. So a lot of the heavy lifting's been done for you.
Now, what about content marketing in general? I know you can't see the keywords that they're coming over, but you can see what the top content is that people are viewing, or what are people are doing internal search for. Is there any best tips for content marketers?
Yeah, I mean, looking at your top landing pages and seeing, like you just said, what's bringing them in, and then you hit on one of the top 6 reports. So we talked about the all traffic sources. The internal site search is actually like a gold mine report, and a lot of people don't use it. but it's so key for both e-commerce and lead gen because people are telling you what they're looking for. And not only that, you can see, did they find it? And if they did they purchase or opt in? And then if they didn't find it and you have it, why didn't they find it? So maybe if it's a particular product they're looking for and they didn't find it, but you have it, you move it to the top of the category page, or you move it to the home page. If enough people, because enough people are searching for it, what I did with the furniture company was I started a whole new product line that made us over $100,000 because I was going through the site search report and I saw people searching for something that we didn't have. And at first I was like, you dummies, we don't have tabletops. Why are you looking for that? And then I realized, like, wait a minute, I'm the dummy here. Like, we can just make tabletops because people want them. Like, they're telling me what they want. So same thing, not only with e-commerce, but with content. If people are coming to your site and they're typing in a particular word about an article or topic and you know what that is and you don't have anything on it, well, go start writing some articles on it because they're telling you, that's the voice of the customer telling you, indirectly what they're looking for or expecting to find on your website.
Yeah, give the people what they want.
Yes, exactly, or they will leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, site search, I'll just explain how that gets set up. Essentially, in WordPress or your e-commerce site or mostly any sites, internal search when you search on your site is all done through what they call URL variables. There's a little S equals or some type of variable at the end of that query, and all you have to do, it's very, very simple. All you do is put that into your admin inside Google Analytics, and that will give you your internal search.
Go to your website, go to the search box, type in test, and then look in the URL bar, and it will say Q equals test. So Q is what you put in there, or S equals test. And exactly. Then Google Analytics will do the rest and start telling you what the search term is.
Perfect. Now, you said there's a couple other reports that you list as the top ones?
And again, these are kind of the 80-20 where you're going to get the most actionable insight as far as consistently. But everyone has, every website's a little bit different, has their own goals, and so like that example you gave with the real-time usage was awesome because it works so well for that specific instance. So one, as we kind of touched on, is now, especially with the keyword data being gone from organic, is your top landing pages. Just looking at what is bringing people in, and so you kind of
my favorite report.
Yeah, it's one of the best, and especially for conversion, because if you're looking at the site from, hey, let's start optimizing our website from a conversion standpoint, well, usually it makes sense to either start at the top pages that's already getting traffic. Or if you're an e-commerce site, you look at the best leverage page, which would be like checkout or cart page if there's issues there. So the top landing page would be another one.
Yeah, that particular report is inside the new behavior tab, and then site content, and then landing pages. And all you can do is just go there, and you can reorganize it by traffic, you can organize it by bounce rate. If you're tracking revenue, you can track it by that. But yeah, that's basically the number one report that I always look at when I bring on new clients to figure out where to start.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
And then, so with top landing pages, now this next one, it would be for e-commerce owner, but it's product performance. And this is nice because, again, going back to the philosophy of look what's working and scale it. So you go to product performance and you see, okay, what am I selling the most of? And you can drill down and see where the traffic came from that bought those products. But you use this to see what's selling the most. And instead of like trying to sell everything, you focus on what's selling and say, okay, how do I sell more of these? Or why are people buying these particular products? It's just good for you to have an awareness and a pulse on what are your 80-20 in terms of revenue drivers.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually looking at one of my e-commerce clients right now, and I'm seeing that. I didn't even know that report existed. That totally makes sense.
And so like to scale, again, going to example to scale, you look at what's selling and you take it and you go to AdWords. If you're not using AdWords, and you're already selling this product, well, it's proof that people want to buy it. So let's start an AdWords campaign for it, or Facebook can be tricky, but let's move it. If these are the top selling products, well, let's make it easier for people to get to them. So let's make sure they're the bestseller. Let's make sure they're top of the page. They're all over the website. Just continue to scale what's already proven to be working.
Yeah, that's really a great point, because a lot of people, they just assume that, people are going to, click on that product even though it is already selling well, and it's all the way down on the bottom of the
Right.
page, and that is the biggest return that you're going to make by just moving that to the top, maybe even calling out as bestseller, give the people what they
Right.
want.
Exactly.
Awesome. Is
And
another
then
report?
another one would be audience, under audience, and then geo and location. And this is telling us, again, we're learning about our audience. So with the goals and e-commerce set up, now we can see where are people who are buying coming from. You may have a lot of people who come from particular states or particular cities, and so so
Yeah.
now you start answering questions. Okay, why are these states doing better than other states? And it's so many you got weather, crime rates. I mean, it all depends on what you're selling, seasonality. But if you are, if you're an e-commerce company or lead gen and you're only doing organic and you're not doing paid, and you're making the transition or the jump into paid, instead of just advertising in front of everybody, again, let's scale what works. So first we need to find what works. So we look at the different states and say, okay, these states are much better conversion rates, much better revenue per visitor, et cetera. So let's start advertising in these states and branch out from there.
Yeah. And another way to use that information is when you're buying ads on like Facebook and you're targeting those
Exactly.
ads, instead of targeting every single state, you can narrow it down to these individual states, these individual countries that are essentially coming to you already. So you do have some brand recognition, and you can probably improve your Facebook ads
Exactly,
as well.
because you already know that for what you may not know the reason why, and sometimes that's okay, but you know that visitors from Virginia convert better from Colorado. So there you go. You don't When you start off in Facebook, you advertise in Colorado, and later you can expand from there. Yeah, so that's a good one. And then the last one we kind of already talked about, but is the it's under conversions and its goals, and then funnel visualization, and that shows you the steps when you set up the goal of, like, say, the checkout process on an e-commerce site. So you go cart, checkout, or cart, and then if you have multiple steps in the cart, those are all listed in there, and then the order form. So that one we kind of already touched on, but it shows you where you need to focus your attention and start looking to improve the drop-offs.
Yeah, this is one of the main reports that I focus on, because, my goal is to get people to the finish line. So the more people get from one step to the next and reduce the time that it takes to complete that goal, the more money my client makes. So this is a huge report that we use as well.
And again, there's a little legwork in setting this up, and goals can be tricky to set up, but it's worth either pay somebody to do it, or it's worth spending an hour to learn, watching the Google. There's enough Google videos and blogs out there, especially, this is what's nice about using like Shopify or BigCommerce or WordPress. They're like the Honda Civics, everyone's got them, there's millions of parts. So people have already set up the goals for them. You just have to find a blog post that does it, and they'll walk you through step by step on how to do it.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of information related to goals online. It's really not difficult to get set up at all. Awesome. Well, let's close by telling people how they can find out more about you, and maybe tell them about your YouTube channel as well.
Sure.
We see the weights out there.
Yeah. So this is well, it used to be called The Office. I'm now calling it Trifection. I have a YouTube channel where I do Spartan fitness training. It's for men. I mean, women are welcome, but as branding, it's geared towards guys, and it's simplified, kind of not like crazy hardcore, but it's just simplified reality-based training. It's for guys who want to get stronger, get leaner, but also have lives and aren't going to be spending 5 hours in the gym. So if they want to check that out, you can go to the workout corner, or just plug that in anywhere. It'll pull you up the website, and tons of free videos and coaching. And but if you'd like more help with me, or just look at stuff that I have on the marketing side, it's squeezejuicemarketing.com. And again, I come from the background of e-commerce and AdWords, and those were my bread and butter, and using analytics to support those. And And then, so yeah, the trifection. So you got the gym back here, and then my main office is right here with the books. And this weekend I'm putting in a dance studio, a dance floor right here. I started dancing, and so got the mind, body, soul thing going on. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Ryan, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all of the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.